back to the Polar Podcast Part 2. We messed up the first time, the video didn't work, and Maia's microphone was off. But we were only going for like 5 minutes, so it was okay. We'll start over. Here today, Lex, you know how it goes. Also joined by Camden.
Hello.
And Aiden.
Hello, my name is Aiden.
Special occasion, 2 guests this time. Hailey Feuling.
Hi.
And also Maia Stout.
Hey guys.
They're here to just, chat about whatever, have a good time. As you can probably tell, we're in a different place. I'm in the middle of moving, so my house is empty. And I think this place turned out pretty cool. It looks pretty, and the audio sounds fine. And we can have a whole bunch of people.
It is nice.
Cool. So I guess I know I only asked your story last time, but we can get both of you guys because people watching might not know either of you two. So take it away.
Okay, well, my name is Hailey Feuling. I'm a freshman, and I'm new here at Newport. I surf, skate, golf. I love it here.
Yeah, I'm Maia Stout. I actually live down in Yachats, but I've been going to Newport since freshman year, and I'm 16 years old and have been part of the Youth Climate Courts and Oregon Youth for Climate, as well as running the Youth Climate Coasties account as well. And then I've done the KYAQ podcast and radio show as well too.
We
Sweet.
both have.
You guys might want to share a mic. Mine is still not working.
Still not working.
It's okay. So we'll mute that one, and then you guys can pass Hailey's around.
All right.
Very cool. So we'll just jump straight into that project. What's the full name of it again?
Youth Climate Courts.
Youth Climate Courts. Do you want to explain to the people what that is, what you guys do?
Yeah, so I'm the director and lead prosecutor, and then we're a group of all young women, and we are putting on the first ever Youth Climate Court in history. And what that is pretty much we are putting Newport on trial for not protecting our human rights against climate change, because climate change is an undeniable human rights issue. It affects everybody and will slowly begin to affect more and more people as it worsens. So what we're doing is trying to get Newport on board and move forward with the climate action plan specific to the needs of the locals and the people around us. So we are getting ready to put this on in about 2 months from now, and we're going to be putting kind of on a mock trial, but it's led by youth. And so through the use of social media and just media in general, we can hopefully hold them accountable for making the changes that we prove them once we prove them guilty for not protecting our human rights.
And in the climate court, I'm a witness, and I'm testifying against how climate change is affecting indigenous communities. And then we have students from Newport joining us. We have Lilybell, Belia, who else? Cadence, yeah, lots of people.
That's awesome. What's it gonna? So is it gonna be like shown out as like a short film, or is it like broadcasted or?
Yeah, so we're hopefully going to be able to have it in person because of vaccinations going up, and also just people are able to, the world's just kind of opening up. So hopefully we'll have Newport in person. We'll be able to have a representative sent from the government to come over and talk to us. But when it comes to just broadcasting, we're hopefully going to be able to go live, and then also we'll have newscasters there to write stories about it, and then also people can just watch a video that we'll be posting on social media and then also YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a way that people could now? Is it going to be like ticket sales, or just open? Whoever shows up, or?
So when it comes to the actual trial day, we're not going to have people other than the people in participation, just in case there's any kind of people kind of trying to change things or manipulate the whole system, since we're going to try to keep it as professional as possible. And in a real court, we wouldn't have outsiders except for the jury. So we are just going to keep it with the people who are in participation with the court, and then also Newport government. And we're going to be able to make it live so people can see it, and we're also making a video on social media for people to learn about it as well soon. So we're going to do our best to make the community as involved as possible, but when it comes to actual court day, we're kind of keeping it more private, just to keep it as professional and then also safe from any kind of outsiders intruding in or changing the whole system of it.
All right. What kind of change or reaction are you looking to get out, and from who?
Well, we want our Newport government to make a real climate action plan and actually make a difference.
Yeah, because like if you think about it, other people, just other countries and other states around the whole U.S., they're moving forward. And if you look at places like Seattle or Portland, they've began just little climate action plans. And we actually were on track in March to join a pretty hefty climate action plan. But ever since then, we haven't been seeing those changes. So what we're doing is we're bringing it onto a local scale so we can make changes suitable for Newport. So we can make changes for the people who are living off of the fishing industry, and hopefully give them some kind of cushion in finance that will hopefully help them when the fish start leaving, or if the ocean deprecation comes and hits Newport, then we'll have a plan for them, and we'll have a plan for a new source of income, or a new just kind of economy resource. So hopefully we'll be able to make those changes and have a plan for when these inevitably happen due to climate change.
And it's also just for like the whole coast in general, because we want to help like Toledo families who may work at the mill so they have jobs too.
Yeah, because Newport government is just a system of government that we're going to be using to hopefully help us in the long term come up with a plan that can be suitable for any like town or even state around the whole U.S.
That's great. What would you say the perfect climate plan includes?
We had a pretty good plan. It was called House Bill 2020, and it was kind of just like everything. It had every member of the community represented. But I just think that the best climate bill is something that affects everyone, something that touches on human rights, and even women rights in particular, and children rights, as well as air, water, shelter, all of those resources, just natural human rights. It touches on our right to live and our right to have an adequate standard of living. So a whole bill that will protect us in the future and have a suitable plan to keep these rights is really what we're looking for, and something that will help everyone and not just certain people in the community.
You mentioned human rights a lot, and I'm wondering what does that include? What would you say the basic human rights are?
So basic human rights, we're going to be talking about our right to water, our right to shelter, our right to air, our right to an adequate standard of living, as well as education, and then just woman and female rights. And those are the ones that we're mainly touching on. But our witnesses, they all have extra things that they're also going to be talking about and going deeper into. Hailey, do you want to talk about the witnesses?
Sure. Another witness we have is Cascade Martin from Portland, and she's talking about how the climate crisis and people in government have been affecting her mental health. Who else do we have?
Taylor, she's going to be talking
We
about
have
fishing industry.
Taylor from Toledo, and she's going to be talking about how climate change is affecting her family in the fishing industry.
Okay. This is kind of putting you on the spot, but where do these rights come from? Is it like, are these government given rights? Are these God given rights? Or is it just you believe that this is what people deserve?
People deserve to have clean air, clean water. Yeah.
And it's also a general understanding that a government was made to protect our human rights. When you go into a government position, if you go into a high system of power as a leader of a country, you're signing an oath to the people to protect them and their rights. And their rights, basic human rights, are pretty much a social contract that we've kind of all signed around the whole entire world, and we all kind of agreed that this is the basic standard of living, that we then make laws and we make systems of government to protect those rights. And just as a human, we kind of have to protect those rights in general. So it's mainly a social and just kind of a whole worldwide understanding of this is the basic things that need to be kept and basic promises that a government needs to keep to its people.
Okay. When you're talking about these rights and people deserve them, would you say it deserves to be provided to them, or they deserve an opportunity to get it themselves?
Yeah, just both. I mean, honestly, you should have the right to clean air and the right to water. When you think about it and take a step back, we should at least have the opportunity. I get what you're saying with the opportunity, but also if you have just with the mill in Toledo, they don't even have the opportunity to have clean air because their air is constantly being polluted. So with this, we would hopefully come up with a plan that can help them to at least have basic things like that. And then also housing industry. If you look at the housing industry here, we have a large amount of tourists and people coming. And then also if you look in about 50 years, we're supposed to be practically half of our, like a lot, our state is going to be underwater, and we have to have a plan for housing industry of how are the low income people going to find new houses when it's going to be so hard to get them. And so those are basic things that need to be not only provided but also just available for people. And I don't really think that they are things that we need to really work for, since it's kind of just a natural human right that people have all around the world.
In terms of human rights, would you say that they change and rights can be added to the list over time, or would you say that people are born with a given set of rights and that's the only set throughout time?
I think that rights, like human rights, are kind of just a general understanding, and as people are different, we have different people of different races and different people with sets of just disabilities and things. So I mean, what I need is different than what the person next to me needs, but our needs should be heard and should be at least given as an opportunity to us. And I don't think it's much to ask for these kind of basic human rights that we've kind of what we're going to be talking about. So hopefully with over time we'll have an understanding that these are just kind of basic things that most people, almost everybody, needs. So yes, there are different things that we should be touching base on, and people have different needs as humans and should have different rights, but the basic ones that we're talking about is mainly on a broad spectrum of all humans.
Our main focus is just climate stuff right now.
Mm-hmm.
I have another question. This is pretty far from what you guys are dealing with, but I just want to see what you think about it. It's not like you have to have an opinion on it or whatever, but different cultures obviously have different values, and they bestow different rights onto their people. So America may have, say, the citizens deserve different rights than a different country, whatever country it may be. How should countries go about determining rights for other countries' people? Like so there's like China is constantly regarded as like they have a lot of human rights violations with like the concentration of Uyghurs and stuff, and like most countries think that's pretty bad, but China obviously thinks it's okay. That's why they're doing it. So is that China, they need to figure it out, it's their people, or is it America or any other country's job to say that's a human right that we think everybody has, and it's our job to give it to those people?
Well, if a lot of people obviously think it's something wrong, then it's definitely something wrong, and they're mistreating others and just not acceptable.
I mean, when it comes to the mistreatment of other people, I can see how that could be a violation of human rights. But when we're talking about the basic human rights, we're mainly just talking about simple things that every person should have the accessibility to. When it comes to other countries coming in and talking to it, we have things like the Paris Agreement, and we have things related to climate change that we all agree, lots of different countries agreed. And when it comes to climate change, it's a world issue. It's not just going to be affecting one thing. So I do believe that we can agree, all of our countries can agree that, like, yes, there are basic things that we need to address, but when it comes to smaller governments and smaller, like, what each country is individually going to do, I think it's more up to them to decide what is right for their people and what's going to be right under their circumstances for given what natural disasters they're also going to be facing.
Good answer. There's a specific year, right, that scientists are like, if we don't fix stuff by then, it's like cascading, and you can never fix it. Do you know what that year is?
So Hailey and I, when we were in a protest with Renew Oregon, we all made shirts, and the shirts would say, mine says, "I'll be 25 when my climate fate is sealed." And so what this means is back then it was 11 years from now, and that was when I was about I think it was I was
You were 15.
15, so that was I guess like 10 years from now, or maybe 9 years from now, give or take.
It's like 2030.
Yeah, so around there. So, and that's when our climate fate is sealed. It doesn't mean that that's going to be the end of the world, but that means that we've gone to the point of no return. And with the given emissions that we're at right now, we are heading towards that. We kind of made progress at one point, and we had plans, but those plans never took, and we actually are kind of going down a bad spiral. So if we continue down this bad spiral, then by 2030 we won't be able to make changes back to a perfect world. And we also have something called drawdown, where the carbon that's already in the Earth's atmosphere will come down as well, and so we'll have to also deal with that in the future. So what we have planned right now is really just to get the carbon that we have already in our atmosphere, but then we also have the ones that's packed up, creating the greenhouse layer. So there are a lot of different things that we have to dive into, and unless we come up with a really strong climate action plan, which is what we're trying to do with the climate courts, then we won't be able to face that issue.
If you had to pick one system to reverse or to like lower carbon emissions, or one law, I guess, to reverse carbon emissions or to take the carbon out of the air, what would it be? Like, there's carbon taxes. You could innovate machines to take carbon out of the air. There's a whole bunch of different ideas. Which one do you think?
Well, recently, last year, Oregon started a carbon tax. It really hasn't done anything. I would say cut down on the meat and dairy industry or electric transportation.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the meat and dairy industry. It's one of the largest producers of methane and carbon in our whole atmosphere, and also takes up all of our water and land.
You said the electric car industry. Are you talking the support of that or against that?
Support electric
Okay.
cars, electric vehicles, just everything, public transportation.
Could you explain a little bit about this, the dairy industry? Like what the worst parts of it are and why it
Well,
needs to be stopped?
I guess cows, livestock, they take up a lot of land that's valuable, like in the rainforests. Water, how much gallons is it for one hamburger? Like, I don't know. It's a lot. It's just a ridiculous amount of resources for just one thing.
And also, if you think about it, so the amount of methane in our atmosphere only takes up a very small amount. It's, I think, literally like 3%, but one thing that we haven't considered is that it's 30 times more potent than carbon. So if you think about it, the methane is kind of much bigger threat than carbon in our atmosphere, because it's going to be a lot harder to take out of our atmosphere to fix this problem. So we just keep constantly producing methane, and not only does the dairy industry produce methane, but it also takes up tons of land, and then plus the soy industry and also is only about 3% goes to human consumption, and the rest goes to the cow industry, and that takes up a lot of land. I think about like 75% of America is literally just made up of fields for the livestock industry. So when it comes to counteracting those things, I think honestly, if we start just lowering our meat and dairy consumption, if you can, is one of the greatest things you can do to combat climate change, because not only are you making less methane in the atmosphere directly, but you're also giving us more space to plant trees or plant things like hemp that will be taking carbon from our atmosphere and helping us work towards that.
And you're making yourself healthier. For those of you who don't know, cow farts produce methane.
Yeah.
If you were in charge, if you could instantly change the law or enact any law that you made up, and it was in regards to the dairy industry, and you wanted to change, how would you go about that? Because obviously people are going to be mad if all of a sudden they're not allowed to eat meat anymore. So how would you slowly enact that or whatever?
I think it's not a matter of laws, it's a matter of more systems. And under the systems that we have, our meat and dairy and an eggs industry, that whole animal product industry is what's funding our government. So under that system, hopefully making a change if that's not what our government's funded by, because our government then controls what kind of advertising are we going to do to people. And instead of advertising things like just healthy food like fruits and vegetables, they get their sway from the lobbyists who are working for them. And the lobbyists are, of course, people from the animal product industry. And so the lobbyists are going to come in and say, hey, we do your funding, so you have to provide this kind of support for us. And so they're going to come in and they're going to make these changes and laws. And then our government has to go with that, and because they're taking their funding. So that kind of whole system is really what messes us up and puts us on a backtrack, because of course we're getting funding from these industries, and of course our government has to support them because that's really what the main source of income is.
Yeah, I really don't like lobbying. I don't know why. I don't know why that's allowed. It seems so counterproductive.
It really is. I spent I worked in the our Capitol building for a little while, and just my job was literally taking notes from lobbyists and walking it to our representatives while they were talking, and just like grabbing their notes that they write down, like handwritten, and just handing it to, and that can sway a whole vote.
I was gonna say, vote no on
Yeah,
changing
like,
the dairy industry.
Yeah, literally, they're just like literally right, like vote no, we're funding you, and then
That's
like I have to walk
crazy.
that out and hand it to the politician. Like I don't know, like you have to do this, I guess.
Wow, that's pretty wild. I remember hearing a long time ago about you. You were some part of changing some sort of policy. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Back beginning of last year, we were invited to Governor Brown's office with Renew Oregon, and we got to witness her signing the.
It's the Senate Bill 1530.
So it's basically a carbon tax on Oregon's like transportation.
It was a minor climate action
Yeah.
plan.
So nothing really happened that much from it because it was like right before quarantine hit. But the group we were working with was Renew Oregon, and they just came up with the whole plan, and it was really awesome because Kate Brown actually took action on it.
That's great. What was that tax? Like, what did it actually mean?
So Senate Bill 1530, it was kind of a comeback of House Bill 2020, which was like kind of the perfect plan, but this was a very watered down version of it that could pass through our the Republicans that were representing Oregon. And what happened during House Bill 2020 is our Republican representatives actually scheduled a walkout, and this was the first time it happened, or the second time it happened in history of Oregon, where they walked out and refused to even listen to the bill. And that just kind of is a terrible way to represent Oregon, because it is legal, but it's very poorly looked upon. They're not doing their job as politicians. They're not even listening to a bill. And because they weren't there, and that was the end of our session, we weren't able to make a vote on it, and it was the last time that we could even talk about the bill. So they took away that opportunity to even vote on that bill. And so we had to come back with a House bill or a Senate bill that would pretty much be a watered down version that Kate Brown could sign an executive order on and pass right away, that would not piss off the Republicans as much.
What was like that percentage tax, or was it like a fee on if you hit a certain amount? Or
I'm pretty sure it was mainly like charging like big businesses and not people in general. So I mean, when it comes to your gas prices and things like that, that's not really what's going to be affected. It's more the people that are running the gas and like big businesses that were funded by. But honestly, these changes weren't really implemented, so I don't really see as many changes, so I can't really say what it did.
Oh, okay. You guys have any questions? You had one before about their future.
I don't know.
What would you guys say your individual goals are for like the next 5-10 years?
My individual goals is to have this climate court be successful, and then go to college, get a scholarship because of that, because I think it'll be something big, and then learn more about environmental law and just politics in general, and maybe eventually become a politician.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're pretty much heading down like around the same route. Hopefully with this sort of youth climate courts, we will be able to become mentors since we've lived through it, and hopefully through that we can help other people around the world put their government on trial for not protecting human rights against climate change. And then after that, hopefully this will get me scholarships and I can go and study political science and also environmental law to hopefully then have a background in environmental law and also become a politician or a lawyer that helps political groups.
And hopefully go to our dream school, Cornell.
Nice. Do you guys have any like specific political positions you want to acquire, or just whatever you can do?
I really don't know yet.
Yeah, I mean, like kind of job shadowed our Senate and then a representative, and those were two pretty. I was very interested in the Senate position. I really liked that, but I mean, it really depends on whatever is needed. I don't think it should be really as up to me, but more up to like what the community needs.
Okay. Aiden, you have any questions?
Can't really think of any, no.
Okay, well that's most of our time filled out. Appreciate you guys being here.
Yeah, thank you.
That's that.
Thank you, guys.
So yeah.